Welcome back to the Takeout. Republicans running against Democratic Socialists have found an unlikely ally, other Democrats. The centrist Democrat think tank Third Way has pledged $15 million to discredit the DSA movement between now and 2028. Its efforts will include information and social media campaigns, not the targeting of individual candidates. Jonathan Cowan is the president of Third Way and joins us now. Jonathan, thanks for being here. So you told the New York Times this includes candidates like Abdul El-Sayed, who are not part of the DSA. He won the Michigan primary last night. I don't even know what day it is. Does that mean this is just a campaign against the more progressive wing of your party?
Absolutely not. So, look, our bottom line is this, and we are a centrist democratic organization. The DSA and its platform are crazy, radical in the extreme, and they will do severe damage to Democrats up and down the ballot from the White House in 2028 all the way through the House and the Senate. We are opposed to the DSA, not to any particular candidate, and we think Democrats need to wake up to the danger that the DSA poses and make sure they deeply, deeply distance themselves from such a toxic organization.
But what is it about their message that you think is resonating with people?
Well, look, the DSA message, for the most part, has only resonated in the deepest blue places in America. That's almost always been the case. And if you got to a general election, their biggest ideas would absolutely tank. The DSA stands for letting everybody out of prisons and having no prisons, abolishing the border, getting rid of ICE, having the government take over most industries, abolishing the United States Senate, etc. These are crazy ideas that no one supports. They're anti-American, they're deeply illiberal, and they're wildly unpopular. So in deep blue places, in those kind of places, you can sometimes elect more radically left candidates. But when it comes to the White House in 2028 and to expanding the Senate and the House map, the DSA and their ideas will not sell. Even more importantly, the DSA said its explicit mission is to destroy the Democratic Party from within. They want to take over the party, eventually end the Democratic Party, have their own DSA party, and hope the Democratic Party goes away. So if you're a Democrat, whether you're very progressive or very moderate or very conservative, you should be deeply worried about the extremism of the DSA.
And look, some of the candidates have backed away from either previous statements that they've made or some of the platforms that you suggested. Maybe that is to appeal to a more general electorate. I don't know. You would have to ask them. But would it be your preference to have some of these DSA candidates in the House and the Senate to give Democrats an extra vote, or would you prefer that person to be a Republican?
Look, we're a centrist democratic organization. We believe that you need to put a check on Trump and MAGA, which means you need majorities in the House and the Senate. But we do not believe that the DSA and its ideas are good for Democrats long run. We believe that if Democrats cozy up to the DSA, are part of the DSA, take the DSA support, that will ultimately make it impossible to win the White House, and it will harm Democratic majorities in the long run. Look, right now, the top priority is making sure, if you're a Democratic organization, that Trump and MAGA get a check on them by at least flipping the House, if not the Senate. But in the long run, if you want to build sustained majorities and you're a Democrat, you can't get close to the DSA because the DSA itself is so toxic and so un-American, they will destroy the Democratic Party.
Do you think you should have launched this campaign prior to the primaries?
Great question. I wish I had. I certainly wish I had. But look, Third Way as an organization took on Bernie Sanders in 2016 and 2020 in the Democratic primaries. And we were the lead outside organization taking on Sanders, and we helped to beat him both times. So this is not a new fight for us. But we've now realized after this round of primaries that it isn't just at the presidential level they're a problem. They're also, the DSA is a problem at the sub-presidential level. So we're gearing up not for these primaries, which are almost over, but the next set of primaries and the 2028 presidential to make sure Democrats are organized in their opposition to the DSA. They hear the alarm and they realize these folks are not ultimately good for the Democratic Party.
Have you ever sat down with them to say, hey, how can we all play nice in this big tent?
Never sat down with them. I'd imagine the DSA has no interest in working with me because we've been critical of them and they've been critical of us. Again, it isn't that we are opposed to the left or progressives on the left. For example, Diana DeGette in Colorado, who was unseated by a DSA member. We've worked a lot with Diana DeGette. We worked with folks in the Democratic Party ranging from the left progressives all the way to conservatives like Joe Manchin when he was in the Senate. Our problem is with the DSA. The organization wants to destroy the Democratic Party. That is an explicit goal of theirs. And their ideas are so un-American and so unpopular that Democrats should go nowhere near them.
Jonathan Cowan, thanks for your time.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.